Hello there, I am here with my grandmother Vernell, and we are going to do a legacy video to record some history about Grandma. So, Grandma, if we can start with just, if you can tell us your name and when and where you were born.
My name is Vernell Karsk-Werblo. I was born at Fremont, Nebraska, in the eastern part of town at a nursing home. Mother's doctor was Dr. Severs. She was a woman doctor. She had delivered Mother.
Oh, wow.
So she delivered two of my children, not all four, just two.
Oh, so she delivered your mother when your mom was born, then she delivered you.
That's right.
And she delivered two of your children as well? Oh my gosh. And so you were, was that common? You said you were born in a nursing home. There was,
it was a place where babies were born.
Oh.
Of Dr. Severs.
So there was not, people didn't go to a hospital.
They could, and I went to the hospital the first time because Dr. Severs thought there might be problems or something for the first baby, and so she thought I should be in the hospital.
Okay.
And the last one, Bruce, you had to stay in bed 10 days.
Oh gosh.
And at the hospital you didn't stay 10 days, so when the fourth one was going to come, I changed doctors.
Okay. So you were born in Fremont. Did you then live in Fremont as a child?
No. My parents lived 2.5 miles north of Rogers.
Which is by
west of North Bend.
North Bend, Schuyler. Okay. And your parents' names were?
Carl and Nellie Perrin.
And your grandparents' names?
My grandparents' name? Antonio. Hubsa was her maiden name. That was my grandmother. The other grandmother was Ellen Clemens.
And they were born here, or that was the generation that came over from across seas?
Grandma Perrin would have come across. Ellen was born here.
Okay. And then how many brothers and sisters did you have, and were they older, younger?
My parents had a son, Edward. He was 4 years older than I was, and when I first started teaching school, he was still farming with Dad, and he said he needed to have appendicitis operation. Could he borrow $90? And I said yes. So I gave him the $90, and he came into Fremont to be operated on by Dr. Byers, who Dr. Byers also had a brother in North Bend that he had seen. But something happened and he died.
Oh dear. He
had been, he was not in service because he had high blood pressure.
Oh, okay.
So something evidently was wrong.
During the surgery?
Right. But it was very hard on my parents.
Oh, yes.
Then 2 years after they had Edward, they had a little boy that just lived a day, Carlos. And he was buried in Purple Cane also. And then I came along 2 years later, and I think there were probably some miscarriages. I was born in 1923, and my younger brother was born in 1932, and the last brother was born in 1937.
Okay.
But I think
so. There's some years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't uncommon though.
Sure. And what were there was you, and then you said two other brothers were born after you. What are their names?
Carl. I always called him Carl Arthur because that was his middle name, and my dad's name was Carl, so he was always Carl Arthur to me. He was born in 1932, and Edward was born in Bill William was born in 1937.
Okay.
He was always William to Mom.
Oh,
Not-
sure.
not
Yep.
Bill.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry, you said you grew up on a farm, correct?
Yes.
Oh, by Rogers. Yes, you said
And
that.
this was my grandfather's home place.
Okay. And that's where you spent your entire childhood there?
Right.
Never
I
in a
married.
movie? And so is that then the home that Bill,
That's right.
that's still the same place that he then?
That's right.
Okay.
But it's now just cleared.
Oh, it is? Oh, I didn't know that.
The people that bought it just cleared it.
Oh, dear. So do you have any fond memories, or what was your home like growing up?
Oh, I think I was the only girl in my class in country school. All the rest were boys. It was only 3/4 of a mile to school. If we went across the field, it was shorter.
So your dad was a farmer, so was it always a like a family job, everyone was contributing, everyone had their
Jobs.
to do. So
Get-
what were
Getting in the cobs for the cook
Sure.
stove or the coal. And in the wintertime, Dad always did that. I know that. Yeah, it was. But my mother would go out and help milk cows. I never milked cows when I was a teenager until after I was married.
okay. So your dad was a farmer, but did you have other livestock besides the cows?
Yeah, Dad never had pigs, but he had beef cattle.
Oh, sure. Chickens?
Yes, had chickens.
Lambs?
No,
No?
nothing else.
Just the chickens and the cows.
I don't remember any pigs.
Okay. So you mentioned you went to school and walked there. So how many people did you go to school with?
There were a set of twins, boys, and another boy. So there were 4 boys and myself. I was always alone.
There was just
grade school.
five people in the entire school?
No,
Oh.
in our grade. No, we had about 30, 32.
Oh, okay.
Now this was a new school building because when I was to start kindergarten, the old school burnt down.
Oh.
And so all the rest of them went to Rogers to school that year while the new school was being built. And so when I started kindergarten, or I never had kindergarten, started first grade it was in the new building.
Huh. Okay. And you just had one, I'm going to guess there was one teacher for all of the students, or did you
Yes.
have more than one teacher?
No, one teacher.
One teacher.
Story.
Oh, okay.
The teacher boarded with my Aunt Catherine and Uncle Lois, and because their house was close to the school, and they only had one daughter, Adele, and Adele was maybe 1 or 2 years older than I, and I can remember Miss Sagehorn had a boyfriend. And one weekend, since she boarded with Aunt Catherine, evidently they asked if Adele would like to come spend the weekend with them. And I got to go along.
Ah.
I can remember sitting in the back seat with Adele while these 2 young couples, this young. That's all I remember about it.
Well, you must have thought it was pretty
Well,
fun and pretty exciting if
yeah.
that's what you remember.
We kind of snickered, I guess, in the back seat.
Yeah. So this school out in the country, is that where you also, did you go there first grade through high school, or then?
No, first grade through 8th grade.
Okay. And then when you went on to high school, you had to go into Rogers or?
I went to North Bend.
Oh, North Bend, right.
Rogers, my older brother went 2 years into Rogers. They had a 9th and 10th grade in Rogers.
Oh, sure.
So he went to Rogers, and then he went to North Bend. He graduated in the spring, and I came in the fall. And he got to drive the car back and forth to school because Dad needed him at home. I had to stay in town with my aunt and uncle and cousin.
Oh, and wait for someone to come pick you up or take you home?
Friday night. I stayed all week.
Oh, you didn't even get to come home during the week. Oh.
I disliked town. Aunt Mary was good to me, but I sure didn't like town.
Yeah. So then, so your dad let your brother drive the car. So when did you get to drive the car? Or you never? I mean, you stayed in town. You're from 9th grade through your senior year.
Yes.
Every week.
Every week.
Oh my goodness. So your first car.
Well, because Mom and Dad only had one car, and Dad didn't even have a truck.
Okay. Okay.
So when Edward went to school, you know, why?
They didn't have a car then.
No,
okay. I get it. So you then got your first car when?
My first car? I never had a car. I never did have a car until after I was married.
Oh, okay. And so then after you graduated from high school, did you go on to a college or any type of additional training?
While I was in high school, they had what they call normal training, and you took it in the junior and senior year. And that was to prepare you to teach school.
Oh, okay.
And you could, if you passed, then you took tests at the county. You
Okay.
took tests. And if you passed them, then you could teach 3 years without any further schooling. And I did that. I did not get a school the first fall that I was out of school. I was just home with Mom and Dad. But then at Christmas time, a young lady was teaching at Jamestown School down northwest of Ames. And she got married. And you didn't teach school in the country after you got married. And so the county superintendent called to see if I wanted to teach, and I did. I taught there 2.5 years.
Okay.
No, I taught there 1.5 years because I started. And then the last year I taught at Rogers, lower grade.
Okay.
And that gave me enough money to start to go to college.
Ah, okay. So you did your 3 years like they told you could, and then after that you had to go back to school to be able. And then once you did that, was it? You got
I went 1 year and got married.
Oh. Okay.
But I didn't take a teacher's course. I went to ag when I went to college, and I took sewing and cooking and homemaking things because I was going steady at that time.
So you didn't. So you went to college, but to be able to return to teaching at a later date, you didn't even have to.
No, that happened when our youngest child was starting kindergarten.
Oh, and then
we could see that there was going to have to be added income if
Sure.
anybody of those kids were going to go to college. So I started going to Midland.
Okay.
All the grades that I got at Lincoln just was my, what do you call them? Where you could pick them?
Yeah, you're.
Your what? Well, anyway.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, well, me too. Those did count, except the English. The English, I got, there was two semesters of English, and They told me that the grade wasn't high enough to transfer to Midland.
Oh, okay.
So I took second semester English when it was offered. I finished it. I went into my counselor at Midland and she said, "Oh, that grade was good enough. It was the first semester that you needed."
And you said, I spent a lot of money to take that class.
No, I had a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
And still I had to take the other one. I survived. But
So when you taught for 3 years and then you took some classes in Lincoln, is that what you said?
I took,
At the University of Nebraska in Lincoln?
yeah.
But when you returned to school, then you went to Midland here.
Because I was married and my
Yes.
youngest child started kindergarten.
Yes. Okay.
And there were a number of people around North Bend that were doing the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And we carpooled
Oh, nice.
to go to night school.
Okay.
And we got our degrees.
Good. Sorry, I guess we're gonna backtrack a little bit, maybe. So do you have any memories of holidays? Did you have Christmas traditions, Thanksgiving, as a child?
The farm that we lived on was the original Perrin farm. And it was rather a big house. Oh, the kitchen was small, but the dining room was large and the living room was large. And Grandma's house was small. So the Perrins always come to our house.
Oh.
Always for Christmas. And,
was there something you did every year, maybe like on Christmas Eve,
we went to church.
went to church? So, did you sing, like, Christmas carols?
Sure. My dad was always liked to sing.
Always liked to, yeah.
And he was in a quartet at church sometimes. One time it was somebody's funeral. I don't remember. But I remember they needed an alto. Dad was bass. And whoever it was, I was upset. I had a hard time getting through the song. I don't remember what the song was, but
So, did you have a large, music was a large influence as a child? Was that something both of your parents enjoyed? And
yeah. And Saturday, either Mom or Dad went to town. I went to town and took a music lesson.
Oh, okay.
Always.
And so, had you
I probably
always...
until through I was 8th grade.
Okay.
I don't remember when I started. And Aunt Rebecca, at Christmas time, everybody'd be getting done eating. Now we need to sing.
Okay. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That's right, and that's why I was asking, because I thought, well, there were probably some traditions for you as a child that.
Well, that was Aunt Rebecca.
Yeah. So, is there any Christmas or holidays, a gift in particular that maybe you received for a birthday or Christmas that?
A gift. I got my degree from Midland a year before Beverly got hers.
Oh, really? Sorry, again, I'm kind of backtracking. How about any big world events that may have happened while you were growing up that you remember, or any big world events that impacted your...
I remember when we came home from church on December 7th and turned on the radio.
Oh.
And so, when I was at Jamestown teaching, I can remember being outside at recess with the kids, and there would be a whole squadron of planes going south.
Oh, wow.
Then pretty soon the next recess, there'd be a whole another squadron going south. They were coming from North Dakota.
Oh, my. So when that happened, when December 7th happened, what, you were to report to school to teach as normal? I mean, there was no...
But I think December 7th was on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And I think we turned the radio on and we heard it. Everybody was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
So it changed lots of things, the rationing. Grandma Perrin had a hard time. She got the ration things and she was always out of sugar.
Oh,
So
okay.
we ate a lot of corn syrup and substitutes like that and gave Grandma our sugar.
Okay.
Now, the gas, since Dad was a farmer, there was never a ration on that. We always had gas, but we didn't do a lot of running around either.
So you're saying it was different for a farmer that needed gas than, let's just say, someone that lived in town that wanted to go buy gas for their car?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, they had so many chickens,
Okay.
and when they run out,
That was it.
but a farmer had to have to grow the crops.
Sure.
So you got the big barrel filled up. We didn't do a lot of running, but we never run out of gas going to church or anything.
Right.
Because we always had gas. But we didn't do a lot of running around either.
Okay. How about inventions?
Inventions?
Yeah. Is there can you think of an invention from your childhood or?
I grew up with electricity. The rest of my kids at school did not.
Oh, really?
OPPD, Dad, and a mile west was as furthest they went.
Oh.
And so we had electricity, which means we had lights. Mother had an iron, and she had a washing machine. We didn't have a stove or all the other things. We just had lights. And it was a neighbor from church that did all the wiring of the house.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a string hanging down from the center of the ceiling. We had fixtures.
Sure.
I don't know who bought them.
Right.
The one fixture that was in my bedroom at home, when they were going to destroy the house, Bruce and Ellen wanted it.
Oh, yeah?
They have it in their upstairs bathroom. I just think it's beautiful.
Well, that's good though.
Yeah.
Why not?
But I remember coming home from school. I think I was in first grade because I didn't go to kindergarten, and they turned on the lights.
Oh, really?
He had it all wired.
Ah.
And many homes still had lamps.
Yeah.
My great aunt Sia that lived up the road never did have electricity.
Really? Huh.
That
So
was
did
her
you-
choice.
So was there electricity when you went to school?
Well, let's see. Well, we didn't go to school at night. I don't know if there was or not. We didn't have indoor bathrooms. We didn't have indoor water.
Okay. Okay.
We just had a pump.
Okay. So how about
We didn't have indoor water at home either.
Oh.
We went down to the windmill and you carry it up. Mom and Dad didn't get running water until I was married.
Okay. How about things you like to do for fun?
Then or now?
Well, I'm gonna say as a child.
As a child.
Apparently you enjoyed music. Or was that?
Well, just like every kid, I didn't like to practice. I think my mother washed lots of dishes because I said, I'll go practice now.
Oh.
And Mom would go wash the dishes. I don't think I particularly cared for dolls. Mom cooked and I cleaned.
Oh, okay.
I like to clean.
Yeah.
And Garcia. She was really our great aunt. My grandmother's sister lived a quarter just up the hill, and she lived in the home place there, and she was the youngest. She was born in the United States. The rest of them were all born in Europe, but she never had electricity, so we always took a quart of milk and something every day.
Oh, sure.
Every 2 days. So one of my jobs was
To make sure she had milk.
we took her the milk.
Oh.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes she always gave us 50 cents or
Oh,
something too.
well, there you go.
So there was our spending money. but yeah, I would go up there in the afternoons and, in the summertime, and when we came home from school, when I came home from school, you went down to and stopped at her house, and she always had something for you to eat.
Ah.
Either popcorn or some soup.
So then you said sometimes she gave you that 50 cents or something. So then
Yeah.
what did you do with that money? You
I
saved
spent
it, or you were like, Mom and Dad, next time we go to town, I'm getting some thing?
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I did. I know we got it.
Did it have a favorite treat or anything
guess.
that you remember?
No.
No?
Don't remember.
Okay.
She was like a second grandmother.
Good.
Yeah. My mom's grandmother, or my mom's mom, I think I wasn't very old, and she always, her husband died, my grandfather died when my Uncle John was only 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
He got pneumonia and died. And so grandmother was left with these 3 young children. They had land, but and there were, when she needed some more money, she sold another 40 acres of land. And when her children were all married, she lived on the farm. We always called it the other place. And it was 15 miles to town. And she had a hired man. The hired man did the farming.
Okay.
And he took her to Rogers one time. She wanted to go. And I don't know what he did, but she went. She was going swimming over someplace. Whether she walked in and drowned, she drowned anyway. Whether she did it on purpose or whether nobody knows.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So I only really had one grandmother when I was growing up, my dad's mother, because grandmother Cummings was gone.
So and this is when her children were still young?
Oh no, I was alive.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
I mean, I was a teenager.
Right, okay.
So no, the children were all born, but I mean, the children were all grown and married.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad.
But mother always said that grandma did real well of raising them by herself.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, Uncle John they were all young. Mother was the middle child, and she moved, there's a house north of, I don't know if it's Walmart or one of the mile. Anyway, she built a house down here, and they lived down in Fremont, and they milked cows and delivered milk. And then she thought Uncle John was running around too much, so she moved them all back to the farm. That's the story.
So you mentioned earlier that you got a car after you were married. So did you know how to drive before?
Oh yeah. I drove my parents' car all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
The first car I drove, my older brother Edward had bought a Model T for $10.
Oh wow.
And the house that I grew up in was on the hill. You went halfway down the hill. So this Model T was sitting up at the house, and a cousin was staying that week, and we got in it, and we took off.
Yeah.
We drove, went up to see Aunt Sia, went over to see Aunt Catherine, and Mom was so worried that we wrecked the thing after I don't know how long we were gone, but we got it back home. And it was fun that you didn't have any shift. You pushed your foot on the pedal to make it go forward.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. That was the first car I drove.
Ah. And that was when you were still in high school, or that was after you had...
No, I really don't know how old I was.
Oh. So did you have to get a driver's license to drive a car? Or...
As today, you could get a learner's permit at 14 years.
Okay. So
I got that. And then, for the next 2 years and so on before I married, my grandmother and Aunt Rebecca liked to go to town. And Uncle John, he was always in a hurry when he got to town. Get the stuff and go home. But they liked to shop around, so Dad let me have the car, and I picked up Grandma and Aunt Rebecca, and we went the south way so we wouldn't get picked up by the cops.
Oh.
And we never did get picked up by the cops, and I never had a wreck.
Good.
But we went to town, we got the groceries, and then we went over to Duex and got the buttons, and sometimes I got a new pair of shoes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. And then we would stop at the ice plant and get a chunk of ice, and go back to Grandma's, and she'd stir up some ice cream with canned milk and chocolate of some sort. My brother Carl Arthur, it was always so good, chocolate ice cream, but we never figured out a recipe. That was, I drove lots of times to Skyler. But that's when I was older than 14. I had my learner's permit.
So did you learn how to drive using a car, or did you on the farm you had learned to drive tractors, or no?
Didn't drive a tractor much
No?
until my brother died.
Oh, okay.
And Bill and Carl Arthur were on a tractor very early then,
Oh, sure.
because it was during the war and there weren't any hired men.
Right. Sure. So we'll move on to, you mentioned you got married and had children, so can you tell us the name, your husband's name, and when were you married, and is there any stories there? How did you meet? How long did you date?
I was teaching in Rogers, and Walt Johnson, the kid that went with me when I was in high school, was a friend of Walt's, and Walt had gotten married, and so and Walt and Clarence and another farmer boy, Leonard, they were good classmates. Well, not classmates, since Clarence didn't get to go to high school. His father said, girls can go to high school, boys don't. They're just going to be farmers.
Oh, okay.
So, but those three were, Clarence was the oldest of them, but they always thought they were the three musketeers.
Oh.
Well, I was teaching in Rogers, and one day I came out and there was Walt, and he had Clarence with him. And they spent the afternoon at the pole hall.
Oh.
And I guess Clarence asked me for a date. They were going to the show. This was during wartime, too. So I went and that started.
And do you remember what year was this? Or
well, I could figure it out, but I had taught 3 years, and I spent a year at Ag. No,
So
I hadn't gone to Ag yet. This was the 3rd year at Rogers.
So you must have been like in your early 20s,
Yep.
I'm guessing?
Well,
Or somewhere
I wasn't
around
quite 21 when I got married, so.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That answers a lot of questions. So what date did you get married, and where did you get married at?
October 22nd, 1944.
And so did you just, was it?
At the Purple King Church where I always went.
And would you say it was a large wedding? Then did you just, it was just family, or?
No, all the relatives and church people came.
Then did you have like a reception afterwards, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. At the church, or?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And since I had these friends from college, my roommate at college, Julianne, was one of my attendants.
Oh, sure.
And when I went to college, I did not live on campus. I lived in a house that the lady had 4 bedrooms upstairs, and there were 2 of us in each room. So
Oh.
there were 8 girls, and we had breakfast and evening meal there. Of course, she got paid, but then.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Now, my roommate had a job cooking for a teacher at the college, and Julianne did the cleaning and the cooking for her. So she just slept there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how long do you remember how long you and Clarence dated before you got married?
We were dating, okay, that was in the spring of the year. This was during the war time. That summer was my last year in 4-H, and I was queen.
Oh.
And then I left with Clarence and Walt and Leonard and Walt's wife, and my parents gave their permission, ? Not happy. We went to Colorado and picked peaches.
Oh, fun.
You could get gas if you was going to be employed somewhere.
Yeah.
So we took Walt's car. It had a leak in the gas tank, so we chewed gum all the time to plug up the hole. And the guys picked peaches, and we just stayed in. It was.
But you did not pick peaches?
No. We just stayed in. Donna and I just stayed in the. We just had a row of single beds and out in the corn shed or something.
Oh. And this was just for the summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is when.
And then I left. I guess. Yeah. And then I came home and went to college.
And so you're saying Clarence proposed?
At Christmas time that time.
Oh, okay. So after your Colorado trip of picking peaches that following Christmas.
Yeah. But in between that, in the fall, Clarence was putting the horses away, and the horse had sore collar or something. He got kicked.
Oh.
And lost a kidney. He was in the hospital a month. Yeah.
Wow.
I came home by bus and said, Mom, can I have the car to go to Fremont, to go to the hospital to see Clarence? Yeah.
Goodness. So, and then you were married in October after.
The next year.
Yeah. And then once you were married, you and Clarence lived where?
Clarence's folks always lived on a rented place that Mr. and Mrs. Kern owned. And when Clarence and I got married, Mr. Kern bought a little house in North Bend, west end of North Bend. We lived there we were married in October, we lived there, and we got a job at the bomber plant for the winter, and then Mr. Kern bought another farm, 160 acres, and we moved there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we moved there in the next spring, in May.
And then that farm is where you and Clarence stayed there, and as you had children and...
Until he became ill.
Okay, sure. So, sorry, backtracking maybe a little bit. So do you remember, I guess you mentioned it, the first date you went on with Clarence was to a show?
Yeah.
A movie, when you say show?
Mm-hmm.
Movie?
Or
a play?
No, a show. It was, the three fellas just took turns because of the gas rationing. 1 week, Clarence would come and get me, then he'd run around and pick up all the others.
Oh.
And then we end up at Fremont. Next week it'd be Walt. And then we just back around the other way. And Leonard's girlfriend was over by south of Cedar Bluff someplace. So, and
A little bit of a trek?
Yeah, and Walt was already married.
Oh, okay.
But that's what took place.
Yeah. So if you had some advice or maybe a secret for marriage.
Well, I don't really know.
What would you say made your marriage successful?
Well, I knew that he loved me and I loved him.
Trust?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't always agree, but he took care of me. He was good with the children. He would have been a good grandfather.
Yeah. So you were married, in 1944? And then you had your first child?
1945.
Oh, okay. And that was?
Cheryl. Next year is 1946 with Alan.
Oh yeah, those two are only like 9 months apart. Or
11
months, sorry. I know they almost sent them to school in the same, I remember this story.
Yeah.
They were almost in the same class or something.
No, they went to school. She was always a class ahead. But, at the beginning of the school, the teacher sits down and she's, when is your birthday? How old are you? So this was the beginning of school, and Alan's is in September 3rd, and she'd be asking, 6. He was 6. Then she'd get over here to Cheryl. How old are you? 6. And Cheryl just, she was so embarrassed with her parents. But Cheryl's husband, it was the same thing. Dennis
really?
And Dale are only 11 months apart.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, that's funny. That's.
Yep.
That is a coincidence, I would say. Ironic almost that they, yeah.
Well, you and I would probably feel the same
Well,
way at
right.
that time.
Right. So Cheryl, Alan, after, and then,
Beverly.
and how far apart are Alan?
Alan was born in 45, Beverly was born in 49.
Okay.
And Bruce was born in 53.
Okay. And so you said once you were married, you were no longer teaching. You mentioned you stayed at home to raise kids until Bruce went to kindergarten.
That was, you know, during the war years, and but we lived on a farm that the house was real nice. Never lived in a nicer house. But if we had 5 inches of rain, the drainage ditch was right out in front, and sometimes the whole 160 would be underwater.
Oh.
And yet, like a farmer, well, next year it'll be better.
Yeah. So, were your children all, would you say your children were kind of raised as you were? It was always since you lived on a farm, it was always a family affair to make sure things got done and...
Well, I think the boys helped their dad, and of course we walked beans. Everybody walked beans. But you did. Everybody else did too.
Sure.
Cheryl and Beverly did some babysitting. Our neighbors, Jean and Veronica, were such good neighbors that they had 8 or 9 children.
Oh my.
And so Cheryl and Beverly often babysat for them.
You made mention of you were in 4-H as a child, so were your children then involved in 4-H as well?
Yeah. The boys were on the I don't know if they had cattle. They had pigs. And the girls had sewing and so on.
So then on the farm, your husband was a farmer, but then so he did have some livestock, just pigs?
He had pigs. Yeah.
Chickens?
Sometimes. We had ducks one year. But and the ducks were all right because the ditch had water in it, and they would just swim in the. I didn't want them around the house, but we had a fence in front of the house, and then they never got in the yard. Yeah.
So you had ducks, and you ate duck, or you had ducks for maybe I don't know. There was another.
We had ducks 1 year.
Oh, so that tells a
that
lot.
was enough.
Then you were done with the ducks.
Yeah, because I can remember. Yeah, we were gonna dress them. Grandma cars came out, and we had the big old soap kettle, and we heated it, and we pulled the feathers, and that was 1 year. That was enough.
So, what were some things that you, as an adult with your children, do you have any?
What we did?
Yeah, I don't know. Any family traditions that you? Music, I'm sure, was a large. Carried on that tradition.
Well,
whether it was playing music or singing.
The 3 of them, the 3 older ones, all had music lessons with Mrs. Cheney, and I would take them in when they were when there was one, we just went to Mrs. Cheney. I think she only charged 50 cents. We couldn't afford it any more than that. But they had them. She was the pianist for the church at that time. And she gave music lessons. When she had to break up her housekeeping, she asked me if there was anything that I wanted, and I said I'd like your metronome. I have the metronome.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I'd never had a metronome, and so
That's
I had
nice.
her metronome. Yeah, she was a nice lady. We were going to teach Bruce, but we never got him taught. He's sorry that we didn't.
Oh, yeah. It's sad because I know all the years that you taught me music lessons, you know, and I don't know if I could sit down at a piano now, and I'd have to do some practicing to remember.
But you would remember some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Who was it? Oh, Cheryl was. When Mark and Chris had moved to Blair, that ended son Mark's music lesson, and not surprising. You know, he has the drums.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, well, he had drums when he was 1 year old, I think. His
Oh
dad
my
went to a
gosh.
sale or something, you got drums. But Mark has a nice touch with the drums.
Oh.
I was at a musical the other day, and it was a guitarist and the drum and the bass viol. And the drum was good, but he was too loud.
Oh.
And Mark has that feeling about that he's going to be there, but he's just the background.
Sure. Good.
I think he's a good drummer.
Yeah. Good.
And so then Ella is going into 7th grade. She's going to quit the music lesson.
Oh.
But Grandma Cheryl said, you have to have one piece.
Right.
And Jack probably doesn't know all the rest of. Oh, Blake is still having music. Ty even quit band. I asked him the other day. He was trombone. Ty, you got back there and all those fellows just blowing old notes and didn't play the right ones, and he said yes. I couldn't stand it.
Oh, really? Wow.
That would be Ty.
That's the reason why he didn't want to do it anymore?
Well,
'Cause
yeah. Yeah, 'cause
that's too bad.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But it could happen all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Any other stories that stick out in your mind? So your children all went to a country school as well, walked to school.
Oh. If we'd have been to the east boundary, they would have gone to District 10. If we were across the road, they'd have gone to school, to North Bend.
Oh, okay.
We were 2.25 miles. And to hear them tell, they had to walk all the time.
I think I've heard bits of this story before. Yes.
Yeah. Of course, when Bruce started, you know, I was busy teaching, so it was Clarence's responsibility.
Oh.
And he did. And Bruce needed some speech therapy. The teacher even called us up and said, I can't understand Bruce. You need to get him some therapy. We didn't realize, you know, we could understand him. And so the county had a speech therapist that came around to the various schools. And he would come not to Bruce's school, but the one 2 miles north. And parents were getting up there because it was right after lunch or something like that, once a week or twice. And then the instructor was real good. He brought Bruce back back to the school. He was on his way back.
Sure.
He wasn't on his way, but that was, he didn't have to do
Yeah.
that, but he did.
Nice.
Yes, it was.
So as your kids grew up, did they were involved in 4-H, they were involved in music, it sounds like. So
All but Bruce.
All but Bruce.
Bruce was not involved in music.
What did you like? Do you feel like you were a strict parent, a relaxed parent, or you were just somewhere in the middle?
We were a parent.
Yeah. Did you require them to get? Was it common that when, like nowadays, I feel like you turn 16, you better, you should go find a job. Or was it no?
Alan detasseled seed corn.
Oh, okay.
Bruce, by that time, his dad was not able to do it. So Bruce did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Alan did too, that last year that we were on the farm. Alan would have graduated with distinction if he hadn't had come home and farm. He came home on the weekends, and put the crop in. The neighbors did a real fine job, the cultivating, the sowing.
Good.
The girls babysat.
Sure.
And when Beverly was in Midland, she was janitor for the church in North Bend.
Oh, okay.
So she came home and cleaned.
No, I didn't know that.
And she was going to have her wedding was going to be on Saturday night. They were going to throw rice all over so that the janitor could.
Oh. Because of all the time she had to do it? Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. That was about, and they all had jobs in college.
Oh, yeah.
When their father died, the minister at North Bend wrote to West Bend, because Alan and Cheryl went to West Bend, and they handed out scholarships.
Oh, good.
Cheryl's, she had to pay back, but Alan's, he was a good enough student.
Yeah.
He got grants.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how they got through.
Yeah.
And Bruce, when he was at Kearney, he had a job at a drugstore or something.
Yeah.
Had jobs, and Barry worked at Inky Dinky and
So I know this is difficult. So your Clarence got sick. Do you know what?
Started it?
Yeah.
He was having trouble walking the gate, and he went to Skylar to get his eyes checked, and the eye doctor there said, "You better go to Omaha to see somebody." So we went to Omaha. And when they told me it was multiple sclerosis, I said, I don't know what that is. This was right after school was going to start, and it was Labor Day, and he was at the Nebraska Psychiatric Institute for a week, and the kids and I picked him up. We got Alan and Cheryl from Lincoln, and we just rode around, and we took him back, and he got to the door, and then locked the door, take all the keys, all the cigarettes and everything, push him in and shut the door. Yeah. Where it came from, I mean, we don't know why, because Grandpa cars came from Europe, and don't know anybody else had that or not.
Yeah.
And I just said, kids, don't be rude to your body.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean, Clarence wasn't rude to his body
Right.
either. It was just, that's it.
Well, yeah.
We survived. And he did too, the poor guy.
Yeah.
You know, like your dad.
It's tough to see anybody go through health issues.
Lots of people have to go through worse.
Especially tough when it's a loved one that you're, you know.
Yeah.
You had mentioned then at that Alan and Bruce were very helpful and helped with the farming and whatnot. But then at some point you did move off of the farm and you moved to town.
We had a farm sale, and there were bills to pay, and from the farm sale I paid all the bills and bought a house.
Oh, good.
It was paid, yeah, for $19,000.
Oh, wow. And at this, when you had moved to town, all of your children were grown, had already graduated from high school, or?
Bruce graduated. No, we were already in. Bruce was still home going to school, but the arrangement was he could be home from school. I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday for lunch. So they was staying at Kentucky, and I was there on Tuesday, Thursday, because I planned my route, so I would be in North Bend.
Okay.
One time Bruce and I were both home at lunch, and for some reason we were having corn, and Clarence choked.
Oh, goodness.
And if Bruce hadn't been there, he took his dad and flipped him upside down and gave him a whack, and out comes the corn. The rescue squad would have not got them.
Oh my.
So we didn't have any more corn. We got a blender.
Oh, yeah.
And Clarence did not talk, so the poor guy just had to take what we gave.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned something about you were teaching at the time and you were making something in regards to making rounds. You taught at various schools throughout the week or throughout the day, or?
No, they were country schools.
Oh.
Only two Jamestown, I was there for a year and a half. And then I taught in Rogers.
Okay.
And Jamestown was kindergarten to 8th grade at that time. But there was only 6th grade students.
Oh.
Rogers was a 2-teacher school. I had 1 through 4, and she had 5 through 8.
So you were, you taught, mathematics, reading, all that.
Yeah.
And then, but at some point in time, you were teaching just music, correct?
Oh, well, that's when I went back.
That's when, okay.
But after all the children were born.
Okay.
Yeah, when I started back to school. Yeah, I forgot about those years. Yeah, I taught west of Ames. There was a country school. I taught there. I taught District 7 up by County 9 and there. And then at that time, the county superintendent had started a music program where the music teacher came around, and Mrs. Nelson, her husband, was the music at Midland, and they left to go to Oregon to live and so on. And so Mr. Hutchinson contacted me to see if I wanted a job.
Oh, okay.
And this was arrangement that he had thought up with Mrs. Nelson, that he gathered 10 schools, and they would each pay a tenth of their thing into the county superintendent, and that's what we got our salary.
Ah.
I got salary and mileage, but when I stopped, Beverly started out as much as I got when I ended.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I had 10 schools of music teaching.
But you didn't go to all 10 schools every day. It was that's what you
4.
were, when you mentioned you were able to be in North Bend on, say
Right.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I was there an hour, so if it was a 3 teacher, each room had 20 minutes. If it was 2 teacher, it was a half an hour. And there was only one school that had a single teacher. And what did I do? Well, I think I took the lower grade part-time and the upper grade some.
Oh, okay. And so you kept teaching music. Did you eventually retire, or?
I retired. 1985.
Oh yeah, because Martha just made mention of this the other day, that you taught her music class and she got sent upstairs.
The first day in kindergarten, I don't know what it was, but she didn't want to do something, and I said, Martha, you can go upstairs. She went.
That's too funny. So when you retired from your teaching, you just decided it's time for me to retire, or yeah?
I got to be 62.
Ah, okay.
And I decided that I wanted to walk out.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to shove me.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah.
And the program lasted maybe 2 or 3 more years, and then it disbanded because the schools even got larger. I mean, many of them were not going to operate anymore.
Sure. Oh, I guess I remember as a child, going to elementary school, that's what, whoever the music teacher was, that's what was still happening.
Yeah.
It was a music teacher that went to several schools. We had music at
Such and such a time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The music teacher wasn't there all day.
No.
So.
She was there an hour.
Yep. Yep.
And then there was time for traveling to the next school.
Yep.
And sometimes you barely got there. I mean, there was that far apart, and then sometimes you had time to talk to the cook.
Sure.
But your responsibility was this Christmas program.
Oh.
And that Mother's Day or the spring tea.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I never planned anything for Christmas when I started teaching music, because after I got done with 10 schools, I was just...
Kind of took the little bit of the Christmas spirit out of you.
There wasn't that many nights.
Oh, sure.
And one year, there was bad weather.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And I think one time, one school just, I couldn't get there, and they just went ahead and adopted me, which was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You have to drive from school to school, especially out in the country when it's snowing.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. So, did you when you were little, did you always want to be a teacher?
No.
No?
Never thought. I don't know what I thought I was going to be. I have no idea.
You just decided one day this...
Oh, it just fell in.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Of course, in those days, that's what you did. You were a school teacher.
Oh, okay.
And then at church, I'd always, Mrs. Cheney, she quit playing, and I played. I joined that, and I enjoyed that. They got their first organ when Beverly was born. And I was always glad when they picked it out. I didn't. And I guess I just enjoyed that. And then we had choir practice.
Yeah.
On Wednesday night. And I guess I just enjoyed it. I don't know.
So it's just music has always been something you've enjoyed.
I guess so.
Do you feel like it helps make everyone a little bit more well-rounded, or you've just always done it because you thought, oh, I enjoy this, so why not?
I can remember that when Clarence and the guys were coming to get me, you would be ready, and what I did, I sat down and played the piano when I was waiting for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now that was, I did.
Huh.
Because do you know Alan still plays every day?
I didn't know that. I've never even heard Alan. I don't think I've ever heard Alan play the piano.
He is, I always thought when he was practicing, he'd get to the last note and he'd miss it. But when they redid their floors in Portland, Alan and Keith moved out of the house. Some friend was going to be gone or something. They lived in that house while Alan had all of the floors real down, except the kitchen and the bathroom. They were tiled.
Yeah.
And so at that time, the piano was in the dining room. Well, when they cleared everything out, the piano went to the basement, and it never went back upstairs.
Uh-oh.
It's downstairs. But I guess he plays every time.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. And Cheryl, I don't know if Cheryl sits down to play. Beverly plays for church on Thursday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Cheryl doesn't play for. I thought Cheryl played for church too. No.
Well, she did, but they don't ask her anymore. They hire somebody.
Oh, yeah, I suppose in those bigger churches.
Yeah.
I might backtrack a little bit here. You were remarried, correct?
Yeah.
And can you tell us his name and how you met?
We forgot about Morgan. Morgan and Ruth went to church just like we did. We were about the same age. Morgan was older than I was, but Ruth was in our UMW and so on. I knew the children. And my children, we went to visit them one time, and Morgan took the kids upstairs, and he had a train set,
Oh, sure.
and he cut a hole in the wall so this train could go over it. I never saw it, but the kids, Mom, he cut a hole in the wall. It was an older house, and they tore down that house and built a new one. They cut a hole in the wall. He told me that he sold that train set so they could buy a camper so they could go to camping.
Oh, wow.
Ruth became ill. They had 2 children, and Ruth became ill and was ill a long time. And well, I never even thought about it. But one time he called. He called up after Ruth had passed away and asked if I wanted to go show. And I said, oh no. And then after I thought of it, Pernell, that wasn't very nice. I guess you could go to the show. So I called him back up.
Yeah.
Morgan, I'll go to the show with you. So he had this pickup, and we went, we'll go to Skyler. We won't see anybody. Yeah, the next table was his next door neighbor. Morgan was good to me. Morgan was good to my children.
Yeah. And your grandchildren.
Yeah, and the grandchildren. Yeah, he enjoyed. I do not think Morgan would have survived by himself.
Oh, yeah.
He was just lost.
Yeah.
And anything I wanted to do, we could do.
Yeah. Good.
I remember when after Alan moved to Portland, Morgan just goes, we could go to Portland to see Alan. Well, I guess. Maybe we could go to Alaska. I guess.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Morgan loved woodworking, so had you ever taken interest in woodworking
Not before that.
No?
I
So
wouldn't even,
you learned all of those
all of that.
Morgan?
And the love of a nice oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was Morgan, is that what he did for his work?
He worked with wood at it was in North Bend to begin with, and it moved to Fremont, his work, and he ran a high-speed machine of some sort. Don't ask me. They made fixtures for stores. They made store fixtures.
Sure. Okay.
And I think he always worked with wood. Yeah.
But by the time you two were dating or married, you had both retired, or no? You said you were still working. That's right.
And he was too.
He was too.
Until he was. He worked until he was 65, and that was it. That day, he walked out.
Good.
Before that, they were pooling rides going from North Bend. Since the place had moved down here, they kind of pooled the rides to go to work and back.
Sure.
And it had gotten to be a small group of men that worked. But they were cabinet makers.
How about cribbage? Did you know how to play cribbage before you met Morgan?
No.
Well, I guess you had known Morgan quite some time. It sounds like you had known Morgan quite some time before you had been dating, but you weren't familiar with cribbage.
That's right. I had no idea. No, I saw Morgan at church and
Sure.
so on. And the kids, but yeah. Cribbage, no, knew music. But we hadn't gone very many places together, and Morgan brought his cribbage board to teach me cribbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So had he always had his woodworking shop, on the side? He enjoyed working with it in his job, but then on the side he also enjoyed making things?
The house that they built in North Bend, the one thing I remember about it is in in the Wanda's or the kids' bedroom, they didn't need any furniture but a bed.
Oh.
Because he built in the
Sure.
chest of drawers.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big room.
Yeah.
But it was all there.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was the oldest of his brothers and sisters.
Okay.
So, and they were through the Depression. He went to CCC camp.
I don't know what that is.
Conservation CCC conservation. That was when there wasn't people were looking for jobs and so on. The government started the CCC camps. And he was with a group that went to Oregon, and he was a cook at the camp, and they, I don't know what they did, plant bushes or something. When we were in Portland, we went down to where his camp was.
Yeah.
Now, he stayed a year. You could be in a year. And then his brother only got to go to someplace like Blair.
Oh.
Now, Morgan, they'd already reduced
Right.
the amount of travel. Morgan was also at a dam in Kansas.
Oh, really?
We went down there one time. Yeah, he got to see some country, but
So what are some things you enjoy now? What are some hobbies? Have they changed? Still kind of the same?
I don't think I garden as much as what I do now.
But have you always had a garden though? Even, as a child and when you had children? No? Oh. I always thought you did.
The garden on the farm so many times got flooded.
Oh, right.
Grandma Karsk had a garden, but no, there were lots of years, no. And that ground was heavy. Did I have a garden in town? Yes.
Yeah.
I did. And Aunt Rebecca bought up this tier strawberry thing.
Yeah.
She bought one when she lived with me for a while, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy being outside. I do. But I get frustrated too. The weeds this year, it's just
So many things you cannot control when you try to garden.
But at the farm we had a nice yard.
Yeah.
And Dad bought us a lawnmower.
Oh.
Mom was we spent this much on these two boys, we have to buy something for my daughter. I don't know if that's what she said, but that's what happened.
She was gonna make sure it was equal. Yeah, equal.
Dad bought a washing machine.
Oh, yeah?
I was using the old one. It was an old second-hand one. And one time I went to Grandma Parents and I washed it. She said, "How long has it been since you washed anyway?" I said, 3 or 4 days. I was clothes all over.
But you still enjoy the music. Do you even have any idea how many children you have taught how to play the piano?
No.
Most of your quite a few of your grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
When they were in town, yeah. And that was the idea. It's expensive for them to have it. I am proud of Melinda's. My goodness, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ellie didn't do very far. Well, I think she does.
I am terrible at keeping track of.
Yeah. I don't. But Sam?
I know you're also you stay pretty involved with your church and some other organizations.
The other organizations not as much, because if they have a meeting at night, I don't go.
Yeah.
I got Ruth over there tickets to the Midland series, and she and I go together, and we leave before the end.
Oh, sure.
So that because she uses a walker, and I need to go get the car and bring it up, and then she and I watch the streets coming back
Sure.
together, so that I don't drive at night.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that's good though. You have someone to go to those.
I have 1 year left on my driver's license. I don't want to lose it.
Oh, sure.
And if I don't have a wreck and
Sure.
go to get it next, maybe they'll let me have it another
Sure.
few years.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know what's going to happen if I get a wreck?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I will miss that.
Oh, yeah. I think I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing is that I suppose the eye test and the.
I think that's all. If you haven't had a wreck, I think
Oh,
that's
really?
all they take.
Does it? I suppose maybe does it change as you age?
Of what you have to do.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
I,
Well, that's what they tell me. It's
okay.
just the ice. Well, and they ask you some questions, but yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was this year. I already have my manual.
Oh. To do a little studying.
Yeah.
So, how about? No, I can't. I've already asked you that. I'll ask you. I'll kind of along the same lines. Any one piece of advice you could pass on to future generations, to me or your great-grandchildren? Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, be happy.
Yeah.
Don't abuse your body.
Yeah. Is that where I always feel like you've exemplified the healthy eating. You know, you grow your own fruits and vegetables.
But I like doing that.
You like doing that, but none of that comes from just, and you say don't abuse your body, none of that comes from taking care of yourself as well, like what you say when you say don't abuse your body. Is part of it also that as too?
I like living like that. That's
Yeah.
not hard for me.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I am not a big meat eater.
Yeah.
I like the meat. My friend Esther that I go to read to her husband that's blind.
Yeah.
Last year I think she gave me an electric grill.
Yeah.
Sure. So the boys brought it, but I didn't, and there wasn't any book. I didn't like to ask her. I didn't say anything more. She didn't say, oh, do you use it? I did not. So this last week, I had Bruce look at it. Well, we didn't know. Last week, Wanda and Ron were here.
Yeah.
And we were going to go out to eat. And after she called, I thought, I've got green beans. I got beets. I can get some hamburger. Ron has done a lot of grilling. Maybe he can show me how to use that grill. So that's what we did. And I got it out and got it where to plug in and so on. And he came in and said, hey, that's nice. You better take care of that. You should really like that. I thought, wow. So then we had Wanda loves beets. My gosh. Now they can't be pickled. They're just plain cooked. Because she has diabetes.
Oh, sure.
So I had plain beets and I had pickled beets. Ron ate the pickle. She just ate beets.
And she likes them, eh?
Yeah. And she could have them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised.
Well, so anytime I've never liked the taste of spinach, but I've like within the last year, I'm like, okay, every week when I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna buy myself that bag of spinach.
Do you use it for salad?
I'll use it for salad, or I try to find recipes to cook it and puree it and then mix it in, you know, maybe spaghetti sauce or. And I think to myself, I remember having to eat spinach at Grandma's house, and I was always like, nope, I'm not eating that. And now I just hear all these good things about how it's so good for you, so I always think, well, Grandma ate it, so she had to be right that it's good for you. But every so now, then every time I get my bowl of spinach out to eat my salad, you know, I think of Grandma. Grandma's eating it. You can eat it too.
I like it in salad. Yeah.
I found it. You should try it with some mandarin oranges and dried cranberries and pecans. I don't like it because I think it's bitter, but that offsets the bitter. I'm sure the dried cranberries aren't
Well,
that good
for you.
me. They're probably full of sugar, but something that
Yeah,
offsets
good
the bitter
for
taste.
you. Well, we dug our potatoes yesterday, but we dug some before, so, and we didn't, so there aren't very many. I just spread them in the basement on the floor. And Bob's real good about digging. He didn't stab one again. But next year he's not going to plant so many tomatoes. They're too close together.
Yeah.
Not going to plant any squash because it runs all over the garden. And that's true.
I only have one more question for you. What legacy would you like to be known for?
Oh, just a simple American lady
Yeah.
that raised a family.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate you sitting down to do this, and I think everyone else will enjoy it too, and be glad that
It
we
was fun.